सर्वेभ्यः नमस्काराः। प्रार्थनां कृत्वा कक्षा प्रारम्भं करिष्यामः। ॐ ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुरुरेव गतिर्गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे। न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो। वागर्थाविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्थप्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। वासुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। हरिः ओम्। श्रीनिधि?
Yes, sir. Shall I share the screen, sir?
करोतु।
Yeah. Ram, Ram, Ram. Yeah. Welcome to the first class of Sri Shankaracharya's Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika, a detailed study, which is conducted by Sri Nagendra Karthik Mahodaya. Teacher introduction. Karthik Mahodaya is an alumnus of IIT Bombay, served as a data scientist in several organizations across various domains. He is also an co-author of the book The Puzzle of Work, Joy and Evolution, Indian Perspective of Management and Lessons from the Bhagavad Gita, which is published by Vyoma Publications. He is also an online content creator for various e-learning and edutech platforms like Swayam and MOOCs. He is specialized in AI/ML, deep tech, fintech and business strategy and policy making of for the government. Let us see how we can join our class. So if you go to student dashboard, here you can see that under the today's class section, you can see that join now. So here you can see that join now option. So once the teacher class started, then you can join the class. And yeah, we have one more activity which is added under the course content, which is a pre-course questionnaire. Sir, can you please explain about this, sir, for students?
So, yeah, thank you, Srinidhi. So, first of all, welcome everyone to this interesting journey that we will undertake together. So, what I have done is I've created a set of questions to understand where each one of you is coming from. So, this questionnaire will help me assess and understand and probably curate the course better. With this objective, this question is created. A lot of you have already filled in this form. Those of you who have not filled in the form, please do fill in. And I'll explain later as to how assessment and all will happen over a period of time. So this link is available in the course page itself. Srinidhi, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if you go to the course out page, there's a link given to fill this pre-course questionnaire. Please fill that up and it will help me with course curation. Thank you. Yes, Srini.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And there is one small guidelines while attending the webinars through your PC, Android, or iOS devices. Raise the hands if you have any queries. At that time, teacher can understand that you have doubts, and he will clarify your doubts. Or else you can post questions in our Q&A section. And while communicating with teacher, please unmute yourself and communicate. Once your doubts has been clarified, please mute yourself and allow others to clarify their doubts, and wear headphones for better experience. We have one exacting news that we have mobile applications for both iOS and Android devices, which helps to take assessments and attend the classes through your mobile phone itself. If you have not installed yet, you can install the applications through these QR codes. If you need, I will provide the link through chat. So after that, you can download the applications. And if you have any queries and queries or doubts, just mail or do a phone call or text a message, WhatsApp message over these contacts. That for mail, Sanskrit from home at vyomalabs.in, or if you are calling or making a text, you can do for 94808.
Let us start with the course. Okay. So what we will do, I think I'll continue with where I left off in the, I did one lecture on Shankara Jayanti, and that was about Adi Shankaracharya. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Shankaracharya before we start off on the course. I did a lecture. The lecture link is here. I'll also share this link with this PDF. So those of you who did not attend that, please go through this lecture. It was only about what Adi Shankaracharya's life was. At the end of that lecture, a lot of people asked me, is there a good book where we can read about Adi Shankaracharya? So these are some biographies, good biographies. One is Sri Madhaviya Shankara Digvijaya, written by Acharya Vidyaranya of the Sringeri order. It is originally in Sanskrit, but translated into many languages, including English. This is the best book on very factually describing the entire life of Adi Shankaracharya. Another book is Sri Shankaracharya by one Acharya Baldev Upadhyay. He was a professor he's a professor of Sanskritam at the Banaras Hindu University. This book was originally written in Hindi, and it's been translated into many Indian languages. So these two are the original biographies, that is non-fictional actual way of Adi Shankaracharya. There is one fictional version of it written by S.L. Bhairappa that is named Sartha, that follows all the traditional paths and debates of Adi Shankaracharya of his time through a very fictional lens. This is a fictional representation. The original is in Kannada. It's been translated into Sanskritam, Hindi, and English. Okay. So this is about biography of Adi Shankaracharya. Now coming to our text, where does our text stand? In the mammoth works of Adi Shankaracharya, where does Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika stand? So there are so many stotras that he wrote, then there were so many prakarana granthas, then there was Prasthanatrayi. So all these were in the Vedanta. That is basically the Preyo Marga. There were other bhashyas that were written, like the Vishnu Sahasranama Bhashya. Then other granthas were there, like the Advaita Siddhi, and then the Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika. This is preparation to Vedanta, proceed into Vedanta. This is one of those preparing us to proceed to Vedanta. So this is the of all the works of Adi Shankaracharya, this is where this Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika stands. Okay. Now, before we begin anything, we have a concept in our Shastras called Anubandha Chatushtayam. Now, Anubandha Chatushtayam is basically asking questions, asking 4 questions. What are those 4 questions? What is the subject that I'm trying to study? Second thing, what is the context, broad context, or what is the big picture? Give me the big picture. Where do I place this? That big picture, that is the context. This is the first one is called Vishaya or the subject. Second one is called Sambandha or the context. Third one is Adhikari. Who is eligible to study this? Eligibility criteria somebody asked, so I'll answer that question when I come to that part. The fourth one is Prayojana. What is the learning outcome and what is the course objective? Why am I studying this course? Important questions to ask. So let's start from there. Okay. So we'll start with those questions and try to answer. Okay, what is meant by fictional work on Adi Shankaracharya by Bhairappa? Okay, so this takes some poetic liberties, if I were to say so, in placing what happened, and it does not name Adi Shankaracharya himself. It views the whole life through one drishtikona of one lady who is following him. Okay. So that is what I mean by a fictional work. It is not technically don't take that it is Adi Shankaracharya was not real. No, that is not what I meant. He was definitely a real person. But loosely borrowed from it, he has made it into a nice readable story. That's what I mean by a fictional work. Okay. So is it possible to make the script bigger? Okay, let us see. Let me just see. I think okay for the previous slide probably it was small, but next slide onwards it will be big more there. Okay. Okay, let's start with Anubandha Chatushtayam. Vishaya. What is the subject matter? The subject matter is Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika. So the Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika is a set of 67 shlokas. It answers about 182 questions. And what are these 182 questions related to? If I were to put them in, and basically this is not the paradigm that Acharya Shankara envisaged. This is something I am reclassifying this. This is my own classification. I am putting them under some buckets. So this is basically about economic and material well-being. Some questions relate to that. Public well-being and policy. Policy matters for the government. This is something that I am very fond of. Human psychology. Interpersonal relationship. Of course, self-evolution. Acharya Shankara, so it's all about self-evolution. Then there are some questions also relating to conflict resolution. Okay. So this is what the subject is, the subject that we are going to study on is about. Okay. Having done this, now to address this point of what is called context. What is the context? I'll come to Adhikari, qualification for Adhikari. I'll come to that. Just hold on. We're going to address each one in detail. Before we get into the context, I want to lay some prelude to the whole thing. I'm sure all of you have heard of this term called sanatana dharma. Okay. I don't think there's anyone who has not heard this term called sanatana dharma. Let's understand what is sanatana dharma and what is it all about first. That is the first thing that I will do. Then it becomes easy to understand the context once we do this. Okay. What is sanatana dharma? We'll start with the word dharma. Dharma comes from the root dhruing dharane. Dhru is the root and the meaning is dhruing dharane. What is dhruing dharane? Something that holds or sustains. The word dharati, earth, as it sustains life, also comes from the same root, dhru. Okay. So if I were to really translate dharma and into English, I can just put it as the overarching principle of sustainability. That is what dharma would mean. Okay. It is very misrepresented and very abused term in the form of religion. Dharma, it does not translate to religion. Dharma is not religion. Okay. It means something that sustains. Okay. How sustainability comes about, I'll just show you why this comes about. Okay. Because religion is very confined to human spaces. Let me just show it. Unlike religion, sustainability or dharma is a universal framework and it applies everywhere. Just to quote from the Taittiriya Upanishad, it says, Bhishasmat vatah pavate, Bhishodeti suryah, Bhishasmat agnischendrascha, Mrityurdhavati panchama iti. Bhisha here refers to fear. The fear of heading to an unsustainable framework is what makes the Vayu to move around. A sustainable framework makes the sun go around. It has its own job. So essentially it is following dharma. Okay. Even death follows that principle of dharma or sustainability is what brings about dharma. Okay. So essentially, I'm not talking of human beings fighting over with each other, which is better, which is not better. No, this is, as I said, a universal principle that is sustaining the existence of this universe. Okay, and beyond. The principal framework is sustainability. A principal framework is dharma or sustainability, or principal framework is dharma. How does it translate into action? Right? The operational framework for dharma is called karma. Okay. So, and sanatana means eternal. It is there, it was there in the past, it is there now, it will exist in the future. It is not something that gets destroyed. The eternal principle of universal sustainability is what we call sanatana dharma. Definition perfectly right. If anybody says dharma is anything other than this, it is not right. It means sustainability. How it translates to various things is different. Sun has a different dharma. For instance, its objective is to make sure it maintains that mass, the earth goes around it, so on and so forth. For human beings, we'll talk about human beings in a while, but this dharma concept applies to each and every entity that is there. I'm not talking of living beings, non-living beings, nothing. It applies to pretty much everything. Okay. So this is what is dharma. As I said, sustainability. The very word dharma translates to the meaning sustainability. So drawing dharane means holding something that is the substratum or sustaining. So dharma is what is translating into sustainability. Hope that answers the question. Okay. Having done this, as I said, this is universal. From the universal picture, let's come down to some confined spaces. Let's talk about something about human beings and animals. How this works in human beings and animals. Right? That is what we closely interact with each other, right? So let's talk about that. There are some common factors between human beings and animals. First thing, food. Whenever we are hungry, we eat food. Hunger is a common factor between human beings and animals. Sleep. All of us need that sleep. Self-preservation. Fear of self-preservation. The fight for life. Common. Procreate and progenate. These are common factors between human beings and animals. Right? There is nothing different. This is what is instinctively there in all forms of animals, including human beings. Okay. But having said that, there's a distinguishing factor also. What is a distinguishing factor? It's some sort of a gift if you were to consider it. There's a discriminative faculty. Independent decision making. You can make independent decision and you have a free will to act or not to act. Both of them work. For instance, if I were feeling hungry, I can choose not to eat. Animals will not do that. Animals will necessarily go and eat. Similarly, if my hunger is, if I don't feel hungry, I can choose to eat. Animals will never do that. For instance, a lion and a deer can always stay beside each other when the lion is not hungry. The lion will not say, no, 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 tomorrow you will not come, so let me kill you, keep you, preserve you in, create some process to preserve you through a refrigeration process and make sure tomorrow you are available as food for me. That does not happen with animals. So that is a sort of a pre-programmed behavior. Whereas in human beings, you have that option to say, I will do things over and above this or underdo it. Both are possible. That option is available only with human beings. Now, as with anything that is given, there comes a sense of responsibility that gets added. Now, this sense of responsibility is what comes as what is called Manushya Dharma. Okay. So let's understand what this Manushya Dharma is. Manushya Dharma has many components. I'll not take all the components. It's not possible to do it within the time that I have to explain all the components. But let me start off with a small let's start with each component, then we can have a little bit of interaction. There's a concept called Purushartha. Okay. What's the sustainable living? Okay. Let's understand the Purushartha concept, how it works. Essentially, it says, there is a larger principle of dharma that is governing the entire universe and everything that is existing. Understand them well. That is what it is. Grasp the natural systemic constraints, dharma, what is happening, etc. Within that framework, well within the confines of that, create a social systemic demands, a societal demand, sustained social demand. That sustained is very important here. Okay. Within that social demand structure, fulfill your material desires or fulfill all your desires, material growth, well-being, everything is wonderful in this case. Right? This is what our thinking is, Sanatana Dharma thinking is. This is a sustainable living. Unfortunately, I also attend a lot of sustainability conferences and I get into a lot of debates and everything, it's all jargons come up, COP24, COP22, then ESG guidelines, ESG 42, so on and so forth. I will not get there. But the concept there that people are chasing is this. Your desires, material growth and well-being outgrows all the other constraints. Right? And once this outgrows, then there is a social system demands, because somebody may say something to me, so I'm a little conscious about that. So that system comes a little much bigger. If at all there is over and above that, I should think of something as a natural system constraint, let it come in. If it is not, if I can't solve it, so then people try to tell me that there is a zone of sustainability within this. Sorry, that is not how it works. If this is the framework that we are taking, then we are in for a huge loss. All right. So this is where we are currently standing. Okay. What I will now do is I'll open up the session for a few questions. If there are any, I'll be happy to take them. Are there any questions? You can please raise your hands at this point. Yes, Shiv Shankar.
Sir, will you be sharing these slides, sir?
Yes, I will be sharing the slides.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Karthik, my namesake.
Namaskarams.
Namaskaram.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Okay. I was just looking at the intersection that you just showed now. Of course, I'm reminded of things like the bigger picture, like AI, ML, and then deep learning, as if the decides material growth and well-being appears to be like the deep learning. Okay, anyway. What I actually wanted to check with you was, you just lastly mentioned about that natural system constraints and the social systems demand. So are we
Right.
talking about a intersection there, and there is a gap which is actually prevailing there, which needs to be addressed
No,
as part
no,
of
no,
this
no,
study? Is
no,
that
no,
what?
no. Ideally, this is how it should be. There is dharma, artha, where you generate a lot of things. Then you, within that confines, you fulfill your desires. This is our way of doing things. Okay. Unfortunately, these desires have outgrown this whole natural systemic constraints. If you look at the circle, it's much, much bigger today. So now, of course, there are natural system constraints. Even for that matter, we are not able to solve so many problems. Every day we find so many diseases newly popping up. So what do? I try to find some way of overcoming that. Right?
Exactly. That's what I was referring to as
Yeah.
gap, which we need to address.
So we are
Okay.
trying to find some small place which does not exist. If
Okay.
your desires and if your material growth has outgrown this natural system constraints or dharma, then you are not in the sustainability framework anymore at all. So that is
Okay.
where the problem is today.
Okay.
Right? Okay. 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 Then Komar Pudari.
Namaste, Mahadaya, and class. Yeah,
Ah.
I was wondering about the social system demands, the definition and the scope as we see in the world today, and the narratives become the definitions.
I
So,
agree.
how does Vedanta address this in an objective fashion? That's yeah, I'm just loud thinking.
Yes. So as I said, this is the Sanatana Dharma framework. So as
Right,
I said, dharma is not something that applies only to human beings. Dharma applies to everything, right?
right,
And
right.
grasping those natural system constraints and living well within those systemic constraints is what is a sustainable life. I think all of us will agree to that framework,
Yes.
right? So once you have that, well within that, you create your own desires. Make sure your desires are not outgrowing this.
Right. Yes.
That is what has happened today.
Right. Yeah, I'm concentrating more on the middle one. So typically, the social system and the demands they
Okay.
evolved at different places in different fashion.
I'll
Uh,
address that social system through the next example. Just hang in there for a minute. Society challenges. Social challenges
then
I
I
will
have
address shortly.
sure. Thanks so much. Then one
Okay.
more question. So
Okay.
if it is covered, then we can skip. I was thinking about the Purusharthas as dharma, the kama,
This is
moksha.
exactly the dharmartha kama. This is dharma, artha, kama.
Yeah. So, okay. So they are kind of embedded one hierarchically
Yes. This
into
is the
each.
dharma.
Okay.
The outer sphere here represents dharma. This represents your artha. The systemic demands are giving you artha. This is what is creating your kama. Right? What has happened is your kama has outgrown dharma now.
Right. So I was thinking where the moksha fits in, but I will wait.
I know moksha is currently deliberately I've not brought it because that's a totally different study. We'll take it up while we are doing the class sometime.
Thank you, Mahadaya.
Thank you. Swaminathan Mahodaya.
Namaskaram.
Namaste.
I like the way you have described how the greed or the desire taken over. Where did we go wrong? Did the civilization sorted it so that all the infrastructure, Sanatana Dharma you described on the left, was this something was created after the chaos, what we are seeing on the right-hand side, right? I mean, it looks like when humans were born, the question of greed, the question of desire is taking over. So it looks to me it is inborn in the living systems among humans. Of course, animals, they don't have greed, they only have their immediate self-satisfaction. So where did this come back? Or what you see on the right-hand side is a reality, and we constantly checks and balances. No, don't do that. Go back to the left picture.
Okay. I'll answer this question in the next class. not today. Just hang on to that. Where did we go wrong? The short answer is probably where the British imposed their education system. So short answer, but I'll bring a longer answer to it in the next class. We had a sustainable way of meeting economic demands. I'll bring that in the next class. I should have brought it today. I didn't get it today. I'll get that slide in the next class. Okay.
So one follow-up thought on this. It looks to me
Hmm.
that we always like to be in a chaotic world. You have to constantly check and balance. Don't do that. Check it back, check it back. And if you read all Bhagavad Gita, they constantly talk about this. Control the desire, control this, control this. So that means inherently we want to be on the right-hand side, which is wrong. We want to go back to the left picture. So,
well, actually, there is a way the system balances itself out. I'll show how it will in today's class. Just hold on to that.
Dhanyavada.
Dhanyavadaha. Okay. Purnachandra Sridhar.
Ram, Guruvarya.
Namaste. Vadato.
Yes. My thought was when you mentioned very nicely the succinct difference between human beings and animals, one other factor which probably I feel we are moving away from Sanatana Dharma to the current thinking of life is because of the factor called memory. I think memory is the major culprit doing all this movement. Because in animals, there is no memory. They don't have grudge. They just live together, and if they eat, and afterward they keep quiet. Whereas in human beings, we have got this boon which has turned disaster as memory, which makes us remember all unwanted things, and that is where we are heading towards disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. That's what I think. It was something that how we can use this thoughts, memory as a bane rather than a boon.
So memory is there to be a discriminative force between what is right and wrong. Now, unfortunately, we are taking that memory to say that, how do I make it to fulfill my desire rather than saying how I'll live within the bounds of dharma.
Yes.
So that is a misuse that we have chosen. As I said, there's a concept of free will available to human beings, and we are misusing that free will.
Yes. I think that's where human beings and animals, we differentiate. I think that is where given gift has become a poison
It's
for us.
become a bane in some sense. Okay. Yeah. Taken. Point taken. Thank you. Okay. Meeta Mohoday.
Namaste, Mahoday. Very simple, basic, to the point of being silly questions, but still.
Mohoday, you'll have to be a little closer to your mic. You're not audible.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, better.
Okay. I was just saying that very simple, basic questions to the point of being silly, but I just wanted to ask, when you say sustainability, what does it mean?
When I say sustainability, what do I mean? When I say sustainability, it means that, okay.
My
Is
thoughts,
it-
I would.
Yeah.
Mine.
I'll answer your question. So is it something that is what was existing, what is existing, and what is going to exist? Is that the same? So when I say sustainability, it means that can I continue to live in a particular way, or not even live? Do entities follow what they are supposed to follow? For instance, I gave the example of sun, right? Let us say the sun decides tomorrow that it wants to move 3 inches away. What will happen? Right? So there is something that says the sun's job is to make sure the earth goes around it, or all the planets go around it, and there is some role that is defined for the sun in the broader scheme of things. That defines, and that is decided as this is how the whole universe is sustained, continues to exist, existence. Does that answer the question? The very concept of existence is what is sustainable.
How does it translate to our understanding of what is sustainable? What is the definition of sustainable for us? Because for a sun, we know it has to move in a path. We know the moon has
Yes,
to
I'll
move in a
come to
path.
that. I'll be answering that question. That is what the course is all about. Just hold on to that. There are a lot of things that we need to discuss about this.
Okay, just another thing. Could you just give some examples of the social system demands when you say the desires and material growth? I understand. A natural system constraint to a certain extent could be probably the natural resources we are referring to. I mean, that's how far as I'm thinking. If
Okay,
it's more,
let me put this differently.
yeah.
How do you interact within your surroundings? That is what a social system demands. Let us say I want to eat something. There is something I need to interact with. Either I grow something on my own, or I go to the shop and buy something.
Okay.
Right? So there's a demand that I'm creating because of this. And as a result of this demand, there is something that is changing.
Okay.
Okay. Now this if it is within the broad being of this natural system, then it's different. If this happens to be outside of this natural system constraint, then we are heading for a problem. That is the whole concept. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so basically, how do I create my own sustenance? That's where I'm creating a society, right? Okay. Then Ravi Mahodaya.
Ram Guruji. In this, I assume I have very little understanding of the flow of things. I never had any spiritual or training or in the family background, anything at all. But I understand that the flow is sequential from dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So in this flow, every soul is at a particular point in their journey towards liberation. And wherever a particular soul is, it is easy for that soul to judge somebody who's somebody before who has not attained that point yet. And when we make a comment or a judgment that they should change this, and this, if I am doing that, am I not wrong in saying that I look myself as higher than somebody else?
Okay. So I need there's a part change that I would like to bring to your thought process. One is saying that you're absolutely right when you say that every Atman, let's not use the word soul, I'll use the word Atma. Jivatma is at some point of its liberational journey. That part is true. However, is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha sequential? Is something I want to correct here. There is what is called trivarga and apavarga. Okay. Dharma, artha, and kama. These are the trivarga, which is sequential. Moksha is outside the purview of this. And then moksha can happen once even outside the purview of these three. Okay, so that's a change that you need to adjust. There's a very strong thought process because moksha happens through gnana. So that is outside the purview of dharma, artha, and kama. So that much I think I need to clarify. First thing. So once that is clarified, then your question that this natural systemic constraints are the dharma. Then if these were the social demands, as I said, the artha that you generate, then within that wealth, you create the kama and enjoy that benefits. So that is a sustainable system. That's what I'm putting out here. Does that clarify this answer?
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
The extension to that was, if somebody has not reached the point where I am, the concept of judgment comes into picture because I'm already judging somebody based on my level of understanding.
So judgment are at two levels, Mahodaya, here. If your judgment on the journey of Vedanta and saying, am I on the right path? How am I further away from somebody and all? That's a wrong judgment to take. Okay. However, in the context of dharma, following the universal principles, now there it is a set of duality that does exist. Right? And in that, it is every entity is a unique entity. It is not an equal entity, but a unique entity, each having a different role to play, right? So should I judge that entity? Should I not judge that entity? Is an independent call to make. That's a choice to make. People choose to make that judgment. People can choose not to make that judgment, right? So
Yeah.
we just leave
Yeah.
it at that's an independent free thinking available for people to judge. Now, if it becomes unsustainable, that is going against dharma, then who is to judge that is dharma or adharma? That becomes a question, right? So we should know what is the dharma itself,
Correct. Correct.
right? So there a judgment call is definitely called for. So we'll define all these in detail throughout the course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Uma Mahodaya.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So, Mike, I completely agree with you that the education is what actually has distorted the dharmic thinking. Like it's like this that the Western education, which we all go through, has made us actually question the premise of dharma. Well, the earlier model was accepting and working on it, which is why it is all circle within circle and accepting the way things are. So precisely what I'm trying to say is, suppose I follow dharmic rule as the first circle, but my daughter prefers to go out, questions it, and gets married to someone who cannot follow this dharmic rule. But in her dharma, that this is fine, then she's accommodating in these conflicting the intersecting circles. So when I had asked Acharya, Shankaracharya, who happens to be also a guru, so he said we'll work it in such a way that we'll try to fit it back into the sanatana somehow. So it looks like the whole world will have to work in different ways to get this fixed, which is going to be a huge challenge in my opinion. So I'm really keen to understand how, when the premise itself is changed for questioning and understanding, how we are going to get back to the original sustained dharma thinking. Thank you.
Yes, we will look at that point in detail throughout the course. So it will come up as nuggets. So hang in there. That conflict will exist as long as we are all on this earth. That is not something that is going away anywhere. So we're all going to be in that conflict always. So each one will have, as I said, each person is unique.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, then Sundara Murthy.
Okay, that is Pungurali Sundaramurthy. Hi. Yeah, so I just want to check my understanding if it is right. This is a very nice slide which explains Purusharthas in 3 circles, and the innermost circle desires material growth and well-being. I think I understand it as being individual. And then the second sustained social system demands is at the societal level. And the third grasp natural system constraints is at global level. Is my understanding right?
That's right. So I'll also clarify somebody else's question. What does this word grasp mean? Why have I put this word grasp here? So if I were to look at the bigger picture, this is basically the dharma framework. If you do not understand this dharma framework of sustainability, there is no way we can live. Okay. So that's why I put this grasp. Understanding where do we stand vis-a-vis everything else. Okay. Within that, I need to live. My own sustenance is to be maintained. I've created a society, there is a social way of living, there's an exchange of material, food, etc. So that is artha. Right? Within that artha, I am fulfilling my desires. This is the kama. Okay. Okay, so I hope that answers the question of why is grasp.
Yeah, so it is going to be, my understanding is these circles, they assign different purusharthas, dharma, artha, and kama.
That's right.
And moksha is not represented here.
Not here.
And
Not.
yeah,
Yes.
and then that is an ideal way of Sanatana Dharma. But then the
Correct.
one what we are experiencing now at an individual and at a global level is the second part.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay, that much I understand. So yeah, so I like the flow so far. Great, thank you, Karthik Mahodaya.
Okay. So I'll take one last question, then we'll probably move ahead and see the other things and then come back for the questions. Pranav Mahodaya, last question for now.
Namaste.
Yeah.
The definition of artha that I was given is about the management
You'll
of
have to be closer to your mic. I am not able to hear you.
Is it audible now?
Yes, it is.
The definition of artha that I was given is about the proper management of resources. So how would we connect that to, like sustain
Yes.
social system demands or
Management of resources is right. So that is where your social system demands. If you look at this, so there's a demand that is there, and to fulfill those demands, you're using the natural resources or whatever resources that are there, managing those resources. That is what is artha, and that is where does it originate from? From the social systems.
Okay.
So your understanding is right there, Pranav.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on. I'll come back to taking the questions in after I finish a few more things. All right. Okay, let's move to the next one. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now we saw the Purushartha level. Then we shall also see how a temporal evolution of human beings take place. This is not again there in the animals. Okay. Now there's a learning phase for all human beings, which we call the Brahmacharya or the Brahmacharya phase. Then there's an earning phase, which is the Grihastha phase. Then there's a retirement phase, which is the Vanaprastha phase. Okay. And then there's a withdrawal phase and moving to a sannyasa phase. Okay. Now within this, the societal sustenance is brought about by the grihastha, because that is where maximum earning is happening and a livelihood is generated. So somebody is earning between that age group of 22, 23 till about 60, 65, you are earning and you are generating income, which is sustaining pretty much everyone else. Right? So this sustenance, social sustenance is brought about by the grihastha phase. Everybody agrees to this. I hope there is no questions on this. Let's move on. Let's take questions towards the end now. Okay. Okay. Now the contemporary idea of a society. So it is very important because I define society based on this now. If you look at any definition of a society, if you read any literature on society today, all literature will speak to you I'm talking post Karl Marx, that's about 1850 onwards. In the past 175 years, what we have are these definitions. It says any number of people, smaller or larger, between whom such relations are discovered, that they must be together, be thought of together, is a society. This is one definition of a society. Another definition of society is a social group may be thought of as a group of persons, two or more, who have some common objectives, so on and so forth. A group is an aggregate of individuals which persists in time, which has one or more interests and activities in common, which is organized. This is another definition of society. Then another, a very recent one M. Rabbi has defined it as, society is an entity composed of individuals, groups, and organizations seeking to stay together by sharing traditions, values, languages, interests, and other things. Let us just see what happens if I apply this definition of society to where, if we start imbibing these definitions of society into our lives, what happens? I just want to showcase certain things where a society is defined by individuals, a group of people. If you look at it, I have highlighted it in red and highlighted them. Number of people, a number of persons, aggregate of individuals, entity composed of individuals, a lot of societies are moving towards this. All policies, public policy and social policies and government spending is done based on number of people, these aggregate number of individuals. Society defined based on that. Let us see what happens. A lot of individual societies, this is a data I have from Netherlands. It is basically saying, number of births in Netherlands by marital status of the mother, whether the mother is unmarried or she is married, or they are in a partnership or not. A huge 42% of women are giving birth to children who are not in any relationship. Okay. And this 2020, this number has only increased over time. Okay. So this data is available publicly. So this is what happens when you're in an individualistic society. When you say individuals, the family concept is lost and individuals are being born. So mothers who are unwed, and as we know, to bring up a child, you probably need families, right? This is in Netherlands. This is in England. A big 49%, 50%, close to 50% of the children in United Kingdom are born to unmarried mothers. Okay. So this is what happens when a society moves towards an individualistic value. Okay. So if you look at it, here in 1950, this was very little. A concept of family was well accepted and said families lead to societies. Today, they are saying individuals become societies. 1850 was when this whole idea was sort of floated by Karl Marx that a group of individuals become, a society, can be called a society. But over a period of time, now it so happened that over a 100-year period, people have said, no, probably that definition is okay. It started taking roots. And since 1950, over a 70-year period, it started floating up somewhere in the 90s. We have a huge 42% people saying, family is not required. We can just have individuals and have children and live with it. Okay. Now, this is quite unnatural to what is a human valued life. Okay. How does the whole concept of dharma then become all right? We don't need to go too far. You can see what is happening in those societies, how people are being tortured, the kind of violence that is happening, the kind of problems they are facing, so on and so forth. That is the beginning. Worst case scenario, this is animalistic behavior. Dharma will just say, fair enough, if you want to sustain, I'll take away your free thinking. That is the worst case scenario that can happen to human beings. Okay, so this is what is happening. And so, in the case of Sanatana Dharma, that is not the paradigm. It says Kula Dharma Sanatanaha. Societies are sustained through families. That is a very important thing. So, in fact, this is what Markandeya Purana says. Kulasyarthe kritam karma, kulam tena vivardate, swargyam cha laukikam chaiva, kuladharmasya uchyate. Accomplishing of all worldly endeavors are through a family life. It is not through an individualistic life. This is what our Sanatana Dharma has been professing and has always been saying. To give credit, a lot of other Western societies were also following it. Now they are moving away from towards an individual society. So essentially, unlike the other definitions we saw, a family is actually the base unit of a society, not a single individual. Single individuals are not the base unit of society. So we cannot say a group of individuals collectively come together and they become a society. No, it does not happen. Many animals stay together. For instance, elephants have herds. There are packs of wolves, right? Lions stay together. But that does not make them a society. A society is formed when a group of families start living together for a shared purpose. That is what a society is. That's why Indian societies are responsibilities-bound society, not a rights-based society. If I were to go back here, to this sort of a society, even to this or this sort of a society, people will start demanding children should have free, so on and so forth, free things. The state should start taking care of children. The states should start taking care of things. That is what individualistic societies will lead to. Okay. Which is a rights-based society, demands. We are not a demand-based society, but a responsibility is bound and responsibility owned responsibility society. So this is what Sanatana Dharma tells us. Okay. Now, why is this important? Now, let me just summarize whatever we have just discussed so far. I said Sanatana Dharma is nothing but eternal sustainability. There's a conceptual framework is called dharma for sustainability. The operational framework is karma. What is karma will define throughout in the course. A lot of things will be around karma, so hold on to that. Human beings are endowed with free will. So, hence, they are obliged to higher responsibilities towards sustainability. Okay. And what is Manushya Dharma? I have defined two things. There are many more things in Manushya Dharma. I have defined only two things. One is Purushartha, and societies are a group of families and not individuals. Okay. Setting this context is very important for this whole text, because to contextualize Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika is broadly based on Sanatana Dharma. It is very specific to Manushya Dharma with an emphasis on Brahmacharya and Grihastha. And it tells us how to purify our mind through day-to-day activities. This is what Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika is all about. Okay. Then, having done this is what is Sambandha. Somebody asked the question, do I have the adhikara? Am I an adhikari to read this? So let's move to that. What are the prerequisites for Prashnottara-Ratna-Malika? First and foremost, Sanatana Dharma, or a sustainable way of life, commitment towards that. You are blessed to be born as a human being. That is a given. That means I am willing to accept the responsibilities bestowed upon me to carry this life as a human being. Thank you. That's the first thing that I am willing to take. So that is what is the second requirement. Purifying one's own mind, and maybe there will be a spiritual evaluation, maybe there will be none. We are all on our own journey, so we'll leave that. But we are willing to purify our minds. Most importantly, this is the most important thing, Shraddha. A deep-hearted commitment to contemplate upon the teachings. Please note, Shraddha is not faith. Shraddha does not ask you to blindly believe things. It invariably asks you to questions very deeply. Do what is called manana, or deep introspection. With that deep introspection, come up with agreeable, non-agreeable, whatever. For instance, when the Yadtore Mahaswamigal, he came to IIM Bangalore once, and then he was talking about Acharya Shankara's teachings, Vedanta teachings. He posed an open challenge and said, I want you to read and then question everything that is asked there. Then convince yourself that yes, this is acceptable. However, while doing so, do it with a level of Shraddha that you will contemplate on it. You are not going to be a cynical person to take it that way. Okay. There should be neither a blind belief. Blind belief is what leads to a blind faith. That does not happen. Shraddha does not ask you to be blind, take a blind belief. Nor should it be a cynical approach that I'll do Vitandavada. I'll keep on rejecting everything because it does not fit into what I want. Open-minded, freely willing to contemplate on it and convince that yes, this is what it is what is the requirement. I'm sure every one of you here falls into this category, and all of you are here to take this up. And also give up, if required, give up dogmas or accept dogmas, whatever comes through. Okay. So this is what, who is an adhikari? I think there was some question around who can take this up, whether they can take the course, should take the course, not take the course. This is what the adhikari is. Eligibility criteria. Okay. What are the learning outcomes? Well, first, critical thinking required to follow Manushya Dharma. That is what will come up here. How do I lead a sustainable life? That critical thinking will come through very clearly. Another thing that will come out is frameworks to have peace of mind in the thick of action. I can be working 20 hours a day, but how can I have peace of mind? Not get stressed out, not get depressed. How does result affect me? So that is something that will come out. Then, of course, there will be experiential practices that will come up. Okay. With this, I'll take a few more questions that have come here. There are a lot of people are there. Can it be at the end of the session? Yes, definitely. I will be putting, that is what we will do from going forward. Today is the opening class, Gita Mahodaya. This is what we will do. Towards the end of the class, we'll accumulate all the questions and take it so that we are not, it does not get very boring for everybody else. In synchronization with dharma as they fulfill their. Okay. First of all, the desires, animals, and there's a good question on animals and trees. All living beings, other than human beings who do not have free will. What do I mean by not having free will? It means that, you are pre-programmed. Simple. You come with something, you follow a certain trajectory, you keep going, you eat when you're hungry, you sleep when you feel asleep, you then do all the necessary action, go through the motion mechanically. That's what trees, animals, pretty much all of them do. Okay, instinctive behavior. They're programmed to be instinctively behave. So that is what not having free will means. Okay. So that's why, of course, that they're following. So that's where even the sun or the moon or the plants, trees, they're all in the natural frame of dharma existing. Okay. In the figure, Sanatana Dharma thinking and current thinking is the flow process move from small to big circle or vice versa. Okay. Okay. Good question. So this, let me go back here. This is the Purushartha framework question. Okay. So here, the natural flow of order of things is grasp natural system. This is, I put it from a human being's perspective. That is why I said this is dharma. The broad principles of sustainability are here. Within that system, it moves from, it is always a top-down approach. From there, it moves down to social systemic demands. And from there, it comes to the desires. So this is the way it comes. So hope that question is answered. All right. Okay. So then, role of Grihastha in society is understood. Why did you mention Brahmacharya? I didn't follow this part. Okay, Brahmacharya is about the student life, learning phase. So all of us go through this. This is, again, as I said, this is not a religion-based thing, or this is not something based in India, not based in Europe. It is not applicable to some tribals. It is not applicable to somebody. No, it is not that way. This is something that applies to every human being. Once born, there's a learning phase that is given to human beings and everybody learns. Post that learning, there's an earning phase. Okay. So why did I put Brahmacharya? Because the learning is supported by those who are earning. There is no learning if there is nobody earning. Right? So both go hand in hand. So that was the reason I put it out. I hope that answers the question. Okay. Then, okay. Then something more. Okay. Then, okay. Shivamastu nityam sarvebhyah. Dhanyavadaha. So we'll end the session. Thank you.